All right. Welcome to the. Okay, I finally have a title for this podcast.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, the Snotboogie Smile Time Fun Hour. Yeah, I know. There's no way. Yeah, that for those
Hey,
of you
okay.
remember
I'm down with
Snotboogie from
that.
episode 1. We'll find a better name. I had a better name, and then we postponed
Right.
doing this for a week, and that name is just gone now. But I can't.
I'm down with it.
For Mike, my co-host, you're in Baltimore, right?
Yes.
All right. I am actually coming at you live from beautiful Ocean City, Maryland.
Oh yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how well you can see it if the light blocks it, but you better believe there's an ocean where I'm looking.
I believe it.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, at least I got one. There's one of you that believe me. So the Wire Podcast, we're on episode 5 today. I believe this is our 4th episode because we'll double up sometimes. This episode was so vast, complicated, and just dense with material that we needed to make it its own episode. Also, Mike forgot to watch episode 6, and I forgot to take notes on episode 6.
Yes.
So that's why we're not doing episode 6.
But mostly the former.
Yeah, the former.
Well, this is the Wire episode, right?
No, it's the one before that.
Oh.
This one's the pager. The next
Okay.
one's the Wire. But yeah, it's like when bands put out their first record, and then like track 7 is like the band name.
Sure.
Like,
Or when they release a self-titled album like way too deep into their career.
like 10 albums in. This is the real us that we've been.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Like it.
What's your least favorite self-titled album of all time?
Least favorite self-titled
Of the bands that you like.
I don't know.
Let's do it that way.
You know what? You know one that I can think of that I was pretty disappointed in that had a couple decent tracks, but I was pretty disappointed. Was I believe it was the second, and that's also another weird thing when bands release more than one self-titled. But
Yeah.
When Rancid released a second self-titled album in like 2000 or so.
Yeah, I recall that. They said it sounded the best of any record that they'd ever put out. And which prompted me, I wish they had Twitter back then, because I'd tweet at Tim Armstrong and just be like, "Have you not heard And Out Come the Wolves?" Because I don't think you're going to top that one. Huh?
Yeah. Or Let's Go. Really, I think I liked all of them better than that one.
You like Let's Go?
Let's Go. I think. Fine. Really, I think Let's Go is number 1.
Really?
Hell yeah!
All right. Well, you are older than me. Wait, are you older than me?
I'll be 34 in a couple weeks.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, that makes sense. For me, like I think Out Come the Wolves is the first time I heard like real punk music, and also like real like of the punk reggae type stuff, like, and basically upbeats with no horns. All right, so we're getting a little off topic, which is good, because I'm getting a little worried, a little paranoid that people aren't into this, but that's okay, because in this first scene of the episode, Avon's at home, a little bit paranoid, a little bit worried himself. This is the scene where he's checking out. He's worried because, some people are getting to him. Omar got to his people. The cops are on him. So he's just super paranoid, looking out his window.
Scrupulous.
Yeah, and I liked how as he's approaching the car or whatever, he's like super nervous about those guys walking down the street. And then it turns out they're just like they have sports equipment. And it looks like Avon lives in a pretty nice neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, that's not shocking,
Yeah, he needs fine things.
Money.
Yeah, well, that's what's so crazy is like you think about this world where these guys have there's so much money coming in, but because they're savvy with the laws, they know how not to use it.
Right, they don't want to look too flashy.
And
they don't look like pimps. They're not like flaunting a bunch of jewelry.
Well, let me ask you this then: where do you suppose all the money's going? Where do you because they're using it? I'll give you a hint. They're using it on something. Where do you suppose all the money might be going? We find out in a few seasons.
I'm hoping that they blow it on one massive puppet parade.
Tell me, did you watch ahead? Did you skip ahead?
No, I didn't.
Beautiful.
I don't know. Will they go hey, drug dealers are just trying to make it route, and they reinvest it in the community and pay for a bunch of education, or will we find that they have like a hit operation or something like that? Maybe they have like a sweatshop full of chimpanzees you know, making counterfeit bubble gum.
Yeah, you just look in Stringer's eyes, you can see that that's the vision that he has. That is his end game.
All over his face.
Yep, sweatshop, chimps, bubblegum, all of it. All right, so the next scene we've got the judge is in the basement, and he signs the wiretaps. So even though this episode is not called The Wire, the next one is. We now have lawful wiretapping.
Right.
So let's jump into the pit. Another classic fireside pit chat or whatever, fire pit chat, where they're talking about how you get HIV. And we learn a few things in this scene.
Right. Which they call the bug.
Yes, the bug. And we learn in this scene, Poot loves pussy is the note that I took. Because I believe that is the takeaway from the scene. That is his priority. That guy Poot will chase women over anything else in the game. He's not chasing paper. And we also kind of learned, it seems like Wallace doesn't have the heart for this gangster shit.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's kind of interesting because whenever I first saw that, I instantly thought of a comparison to D'Angelo, because D'Angelo, it's like he can get tough in a lot of situations, and we've heard him brag about his murder, multiple murders in fact, but at the same time, somewhere deep down, it's like you feel like he doesn't have the heart to be ruthless, and Wallace is definitely showing those signs similar to D'Angelo. And so while we're in the pit, we find that Stringer comes by, thinks there's a snitch, and tells D'Angelo. Did you catch what he was telling D'Angelo to do?
Oh yeah, he was telling to kind of starve everybody out to hold their wages, which is weird that I didn't realize they had like a payday.
Yeah, it's very that 401k. It's a really long term business plan.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess
to, you claim your dependents.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. That's the next episode. If you have seen the next episode already, we learned that Wallace has a lot of dependents that he can claim. Yeah. So I guess because the phrasing was wait to see who's still eating at the end of the week. Right. And so whoever has money, who's still got this, who's got that. But what I was confused about was why would these people, if somebody's snitching, maybe snitching to Omar, is that what they're thinking? And so Omar's paying them to snitch?
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. But what is that called snitching though? I thought snitching implies the police.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, I don't think the police are paying the snitches. They're paying Bubs $20 for a good tip. I sincerely doubt anybody else is just like flush with cash because they're snitching to the cops. But so yeah, I would guess it would be Omar because that may be how that works. And they call it snitching. Hey, you tell anybody outside of our group, you tell them what we're doing. That's snitching. The end.
Okay.
That's the rules. If you haven't read up on them recently, I've got a whole book. It's called Streets by a couple of white guys. All right. So now we're in the car. McNulty is complaining that his ex wants full custody, and I wrote down possible relation with Kima, and I'm guessing.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why I wrote that. I think when I meant relation, I meant more like they see similarities between the two of them. And I think the more I think about it, it's probably I watched this like I mentioned earlier. We postponed this episode, so it's not as fresh in my mind. But so I believe what I meant by that was he's saying his ex wants full custody, but then he's still got his mind on his work at all times.
Right.
And so and we've seen that Kima has a lot of tendencies where she puts the job first, and that can kind of, get in the way of her relationship with her girlfriend. And so maybe like I believe I saw like a look on Kima's face that was just like maybe seeing herself in him a little bit, just like, shit, am I going to end up like this kind of thing?
Interesting.
That's at least what I recall my past self remembering. Whatever.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, cool.
Or mention it.
Yeah. So then Bodhi gets picked up again. I love Bodhi getting arrested over and over and over again. I will watch Bodhi and those cops because he got out of that. The last episode we watched, he got out of that like juvenile center, goes home, and who's the first person those same cops see when they're walking the streets? Is Bodhi.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll jump over to McNulty's house, and it looks like complete shit. He's trying to put together a bed. I believe there's a flask of Jameson involved, which anytime somebody's trying to assemble something and they're drinking, It reminds me of, did you ever watch the cartoon on Adult Swim, Home Movies?
No.
It was like an improv cartoon starring Brendan Small and H. John Benjamin.
Mhm.
And it's unbelievable. It's so funny. And there's a great line where John Benjamin plays like the main character's alcoholic soccer coach, and he comes over to help the kid's mom put together a grill. And he's like, Brennan, get me another beer. Right around 3 is when everything gets real clear. That's what I think with McNulty. Every swig, he's like, I'll get it this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he may or may not be fit to argue against this full custody thing.
Sure.
What did you think? Did you get that same vibe, or were you kind of on McNulty's side of like, let the guy have his kids even if he's a train wreck?
I wouldn't say he's so much of a train wreck that he can't raise his kids. I think it's, or at least part of the time. I can kind of sympathize in the fact that it's I don't like to live a standard life per se, but that doesn't make me a bad guy, and it wouldn't necessarily make me a bad father if I had kids. Like, I could definitely see myself in the little apartment like that. In fact, I was thinking, God, I wish I had an apartment like that.
So you're watching it and it's a step up.
Well, yeah, it's like a little, I keep talking about how I just want to get like a big room to live in, like a big clean room. And it looked relatively clean. It wasn't like a crack house. I could see myself minus the whiskey bottle, like struggling to put this IKEA bed together. I guess I can relate in the fact that I'm not your normal male human adult.
Because you know why? Because you describe yourself like, because you describe them as normal male human adults.
Yeah.
Humans don't describe.
But that doesn't make me a bad guy. That doesn't mean I can't successfully take care of kids or whatever,
Or whatever those little shit.
And he just lives like a different kind of lifestyle. He's obsessed with his work. He's not really big into being like just your standard guy.
Yeah.
Although the alcohol problem could play a part in it, but he seems to clean up. Like, he's not drunk all the time.
Yeah, that's true. He can clean up when he needs to. That's definitely a positive. But when he hits it hard and is a complete train wreck.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so, jeez, well, you know what? I guess having a good head on your shoulders goes a long way. Because the last time we saw other cops get really drunk on the job, they almost got murdered by going up to the high risers.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So on the scale of living a life of luxury, you find yourself if you got Bubs on one side and McNulty on the other, you find yourself like right in the middle there. Your life of luxury.
Yeah, I'd say there's some added elements that's not necessarily represented from a character that we've met yet.
Okay. This is great. Yeah. So on the scale
I definitely live like a I just don't really care about appearing, especially as I get older. I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna be the weird guy that's still just doing music and comedy at whatever age, and I hopefully into my 40s and 50s, and because I just obsessively, that's just what makes me happy.
You should just start getting trophies to put in your room. I feel like that's how you decorate.
What?
You get trophies. Yeah.
Just to remind me that I'm doing all right.
Yeah, just like anytime you have a good set, you just get a little trophy. And like you usually like first place at the open mic at
I think I'd get a lot of participation ribbons like in elementary school.
Yeah, exactly. Oh well, dude. So I mean, you know me, like you're a stand-up, I just do the podcasting. But if I ever find myself intoxicated enough at an open mic and decide to go up, the one bit that I have is just 3 minutes talking about how my entire life I just got participation ribbons. And how I, at some point, I think part of the big payoff was just fast forward and I've got a trophy case just full of them. All right. So, actually, no, the real joke was how that's a complete bullshit award. It was not just participation. Actually, you know what the joke was? I don't care. Nobody's watching this and then going to see me ever. It wasn't about participation. It was about most improved player. And how I just kept getting that bullshit award over and over again. And it never crossed my mind to go, wait a minute. There's no way that at the exponential growth rate, there's no reason that I should continue to
climbing that mountain.
Yeah. It's like, where the fuck did I start from? I got this 6 times in a row. So okay, so Oh, I've also been working on saying so you can feel free to call me out every time I say that.
Okay.
I'm getting too excited. I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. This is great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Tell me about it. So Bodhi's getting interrogated, and he doesn't break because he's Bodhi.
Right.
He's the rock of the streets, and he plays pool with the cops. Has some good rapport.
Well, first they
And
beat the shit out of him too.
oh right, did I skip that? Oh, like maybe I just considered that as part of interrogation, or the fact
Well,
that
they attempt to do good cop, bad cop. He sees right through it, and so they beat his ass.
I
And
forgot
then,
about
like, 10 minutes later, they're playing pool with him.
Yep. Well, that's how it goes. Like in high school, you got beef with another guy, and then you fight, and then
Right.
you're best friends for the rest of the
Right,
semester.
right.
Yeah, it's just like that. But I also found it was so interesting when you have cops, like the three of them, Herc, Carver, and Bodhi. You have Herc, who who grew up, I'm sure, law abiding for the most part,
Mhm.
and became a cop. And then you got Bodhi, who grew up not law abiding, and he's the criminal being interrogated. And there's such a thin line between the two of them that if
Yeah.
Bodhi had been born in another situation, he might be the cop, and if Herc, he might be the criminal kind of thing.
Right.
Just from
Yeah,
the temperament
definitely.
they have, it just kind of shows that the two characters they're not that different. In fact, Bodhi's a shit ton smarter than Herc, which is why I think
Mhm.
it's really interesting how you have Carver, who I know that the cops lie a lot about their background, but I believe we eventually come to understand that he's telling the truth about he came from the streets, decided not to fall into that, and then so because of all that, we have somebody who actually rides the line between the two, who's experienced both worlds.
Mhm.
And I like seeing those scenes with the three of them together because they all seem like they could be like I see elements of all three of those characters in each of the other
Yeah,
characters,
definitely.
which I think Carver definitely sees in Bodhi, which is why they treat him like they see that he's smart. They see that
Mhm.
he's not like everybody else. I don't think they have any hope for him. They're still just trying to get him to bust the other
Yeah.
guys, but at the same time, I think there's still that sympathy there that like we're seeing Herc and Carver start to have sympathy towards the people that they're
Right. And it almost seems like
prosecuting.
they want his respect too, you know? It almost seems like
Yeah,
they keep trying to be like, "All right, look, we're all cool," you know?
it's like super bad.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
And they're pissed that he like won't cooperate with them and be like, "All right, look, we're all on the same side."
I I want to see a remake of Superbad starring those three characters.
Absolutely.
I think it would be exactly. All right, so D'Angelo is at a nice restaurant with his lady friend. Now, I really with his baby mama because he's still kind of talking to that stripper lady, but he's also got the baby mama. So he takes her out to a nice meal. I think that's in the harbor, and he's really insecure about what everyone thinks about him. It's like, do you think that they realize that we don't belong, that we're not like all these other people?
Mhm.
And his fiance or his girlfriend's like, you have money. They don't give a shit about anything else. That's all they really
Yeah.
care about. But it was so interesting seeing all of the like he was like they went to take their coats and he like freaked out and like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, like what did you think about that scene?
It was interesting. He didn't really. Yeah, it was good. I didn't think it was like necessarily groundbreaking. It was just kind of like, yeah, we feel weird here. We don't quite fit in. We have money, but we just don't feel completely
Yeah.
secure. What
There's
did,
this yeah.
did you think there was like a subtext there or something that I'm
No, but
missing?
I wanted to highlight it because there's another scene that kind of parallels it that I think is a lot more impactful. But
Mhm.
this is almost like a good setup to kind of. It's just anytime I don't know. You and I we've been through a lot. We've had a lot of fun today. But on a serious note, no, but it's like we end up in like our lives, we end up going to probably multiple countries, a shit ton of states, lots and lots
Right.
of different cities, and experience a lot of things. But then you kind of come to see like we see these drug dealers who have a lot of money who are living 10 miles away from the inner harbor, 15 miles away maybe from the inner harbor. And they feel like they can't even really walk down the street there. They feel like they can't eat there. They feel like completely out of place. And they're seeing all these new things that to us have been commonplace since we were like 6 years old.
Right.
And it's just this whole other world that exists, 15 miles away from them. And granted, you know, one of the places you and I have probably never been is hung out in a place like the Pit and experienced that. So yeah, we would be just as, you know, culture shocked in that area. But the difference is we're seeing that more and more the people who were like all of our main characters from the street they've only seen a couple of small places. They're going to be culture shocked by everything on the outside. It's just when you really wrap your mind around that, and it's just crazy. And I think that's one of the first times we really see that, like the discomfort of being like of integrating into what we would consider like quote unquote normal society, right. And just how uncomfortable and how different the cultures. And it's like going to another country. It's like where you barely you just don't know all the customs. Right. We need a drug dealer's guidebook for fine dining in Baltimore.
So you're hanging out with wealthy people. Hi, I'm Mike Moran.
There's a chapter on how Yelp reviews are essentially snitching. Yeah. I was hoping that would go over well. I was like, I think that's a good one. That's that kind of fun. All right. Yeah. So we got Bub. Bub sees his friend. No, I know you'd tell me if it was terrible, but at the same time, I'm just like, real quick for that like delay and laugh, and then you reassuring me. I had to go like, if we made any money that I've accidentally paid Mike? No. Okay, that's genuine. Eventually, when we start making, you know, pennies at from YouTube plays, which we're pretty close to, we're gonna have like, I think every 10,000 plays, we end up getting close to a couple bucks. Really? So nice. Yeah, I'll start dividing that up, and then watch all of my podcasters, you know, go at each other's throats for these scraps. Sure. It's
going to be a legal nightmare. I mean, it tears friends apart. You saw what happened to NWA.
I haven't seen it yet, but I read a book. It was a Wikipedia page on the movie, so I pretty much have the gist.
I read a book. It was a Wikipedia page on the movie.
That's just a novelization of
reading. I can count Wikipedia pages as books now.
Yeah, of course. It ends in apedia. It's like you pretend you're reading an encyclopedia. Yeah. And I want a novelization on the Wikipedia article on a movie. That's what I'll do. All right, so Bub sees his friend. I think he sees him in the hospital, and basically goes, like, "Aren't you proud of me? I'm snitching on the guys that beat you down." And his friend is like, "No, that's part of the game. You taught me that. If we try to scam them, we get beat. That's the game." Yeah. And so that's he's too deep in the game. I don't know. That's kind of a
No, I thought that was a great scene.
With Bubs, it's interesting to me because he's so quick to flip on his own rules of the game. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that. Am I supposed to go? Because I mean, a lot of people hate characters who snitch if the rules of their world are don't snitch. Right. Do you think that maybe? I guess my interpretation of that is Bubs was big on his vibrato when he was teaching this guy all the rules of being a junkie.
Right.
And I think he was more like just so proud that he had this like he could feel hip in front of this young white boy who's probably from a really nice area and just got addicted. And he probably feels really proud of himself and have that, like the way that this like young white kid looks up to him. Mm-hmm. But now that like it's kind of flipped, maybe those rules aren't as, because I mean it's how much of a set of rules are junkies really going by? If we're I mean, I don't know if you've had any friends with addiction issues, but I totally.
Oh yeah, a million.
A million. Well, at least you had a million friends.
Yeah, dude, I've had addiction issues in the past.
Oh right. So to the point
not
where
so much, like, not drugs, but alcohol.
Yeah, well, I was going to say to the point where you or your friends, because I've been screwed over financially, emotionally, whatever.
Oh yeah, me too.
A million times from like the same person, and eventually you're like, well, there's no way they'd stoop to that level where that they would be lying like that, or they'd be trying to do that. But no, they have. That is them hitting bottom and getting better, hopefully. But yeah, so the idea of a heroin addict with a lot of rules to me does not ring true. So that actually maybe that's even rings more true with that scene where it's like, no, the rules can shift because all we're trying to do is get high, really.
Yeah.
So then we got the fat cop who, okay, so that the fat cop who's always eating. I always forget his name because I swear I learned it and then I forgot it.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
That's one of the creators. That's the guy who one of the creators is based on.
Really?
I don't know about it with his personal life or his eating habits, but like that guy's job was like that's a character based on one of the guys who created the show. And
wow.
I don't know why you would pick that guy, or at least make yourself look a little better.
Yeah, really.
But he's one of the guys that they're based on. And
did you notice he steals his vending machine money out of the coffee fund?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Who knows? Maybe, well, if it wasn't that character himself, it was definitely the job the character had. And I thought that was interesting when I read up on it a few weeks back. And one of the other characters, Presbeluski, the shitty rookie guy whose father-in-law is the major, he is also that guy who created it is also based on him as far as his job. I don't know exactly what stories are real or where things were pulled from, but based on what the guy did for a living and his career trajectory, it was basically like Fat Cop and then the latter seasons of Presbo. You'll see his things happen with Presbo.
Well, that is cool that they're, in keeping in the spirit of realism and honesty, that they're being honest about who they are, Like,
yeah.
We all want to write ourselves as the hero in every story, but, the truth is we're not always.
Yeah. And I have to look it up a little bit more. I meant to talk about it on this episode, but we can do it for the next one. But yeah, I definitely want to have a longer discussion about like the guys who created it, their backgrounds, and the people that they drew inspiration from, just to kind of like recap. Because I know we've been doing it as we went along, but as we'll recap. All right, so now we got the Fat Cop tells McNulty the deal from Rawls. Rawls says, if you wrap this up in a couple of weeks, you can come back to Homicide, be a murder police again. We'll forget this whole thing ever happened. And so what do you think McNulty's going to do with that deal?
Stick it?
Yeah, he got a get out of jail free card, but he cares about the job. So Bunk and McNulty go to investigate the dead woman that we saw them discuss the case 3 times last episode. Once from a case file that was poorly put together, once from D'Angelo bragging about the murder in a grisly fashion, and one last time as a full investigation when Bunk and McNulty show that they're really good murder police. So they go to investigate the dead woman, find out it's Avon's girlfriend, not D'Angelo's. But we already knew that.
Yeah, D'Angelo tells us that, right?
I definitely read that as if we were finding it out too. And then as I read it, I was like, well, that's not right. That's not the right inflection. They find out that it's Avon's girl, not D'Angelo's. And then we cut into D'Angelo at Orlando's. I love that that's his name and that's the place. Orlando offers him a cut of a package coming up from New York that they're going to keep hidden from Avon. So that's going to end well, right?
Of course.
There's no way that's going to be bad. It's not like, him just going out on his own while operating in their, stash house. That's going to be
drug lords are usually cool with that.
They're usually really cool about that, especially
they're reasonable.
Yeah, and especially because Orlando is probably just as suave when it comes to dealing with the police, and they're totally not. He's totally not gonna have risks from all sides. The guy's a moron, complete moron. Anyway, so police are observing Orlando's, and as I'm going through the scene by scene, they go from the right scene to scene just perfectly. Whether it's location-based or character-based, I'm noticing it's jumping perfectly from one storyline to the next. So then we got Orlando. Omar's planning a heist, getting the information on stash houses, doing his thing. And then the next scene, we got Presbo cracks the code. I should have named the DVD scenes for this. I'm fantastic. So cracks the code for the pager numbers. Now, I think that was I love any scene where, and I said this the last episode, any scene where a professional is doing their job well. I think that's so cool. Even though it's all obviously just written because it's a story, but it's just so cool to me to see somebody figure, and we see his strengths. The dude's shown us literal no strengths and all weaknesses, and now it turns out, this guy actually can kind of see that kind of bigger picture. and he might be a really good investigator in the office. Like, he may be just an in office kind of guy and could be very valuable to narcotics. So that was pretty sweet. Did that change your perspective on Presbo at all, or you still think he's just a piece of shit?
No. I mean, you just like you said, it's like like we've been saying, it's just interesting how these characters aren't black and white, and they can suck at certain things and be good at others.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my god, McNulty's like a super cop who I loved how I don't think it was this. It was a previous episode where he's still a cop even at his drunkest, while of course driving. Like, 'cause that's the thing, we just forgive McNulty for just drunk driving all the time. We forgive him for like being a terrible person around the people he loves or supposedly loves, because like you feel so bad for him about his kid situation, but like the dude just like ran amok cheating on his wife left and right. Like, what do you expect? Like, like, I mean, obviously she's not happy with him as a human being. So we're at the hospital, and Avon's teaching D'Angelo about family. And I think this is really cool because now I'm forgetting who was the guy he was visiting in the hospital. Was it just like
I think a grandparent or something?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a parent or grandparent, but yeah. So he shows him. He shows D'Angelo, like, this is how we treat. It's family first. That's all we have. That's all we can rely on. Family first. And I think that was really cool. It showed how. I mean, we see Stringer Bell and Avon have slightly different morals and codes and different preferences, and especially with this Omar stuff, Stringer likes to keep things business oriented. He is more focused on that. Avon is clearly he was probably the muscle coming up. That's why he was the guy. It's not Stringer and Avon. It's Avon. Right. Stringer's just his number 2. It's not 1A and 1B. It's 1 and 2 because Avon was the name. Avon was the power. That's power is what keeps them in power, or like the actual power keeps them in power and in business. And so Avon is very much all about we're sending a message, we're this, that. So we see that Avon has more of that that mentality. And we're also starting to see him break away from Stringer Stringer is very business-minded as far as running the business. And this kind of made me see that Stringer sees people more as commodities, and Avon just sees people, you can see him as commodities, but he kind of sees it as he has family, and then he has everyone else on the planet. And I think this explains my long-winded way of getting to it. Explains why D'Angelo's still in the mix. It's not just that he wants D'Angelo to be comfortable. It's not just that he wants D'Angelo to be kept safe. It's that he wants D'Angelo to be a big, big part of this business, because he wants his family to continue on with this business. And that makes a lot more sense of why he, instead of just saying, let's get a couple of good like lower guys that we can raise up as. I bet Stringer wants D'Angelo. I would bet Stringer wants D'Angelo gone just in general, because he's a shitty employee. I bet he would love to have. I bet he'd love to be promoting Bodie. I bet Bodie would do them a lot better in Stringer's role, or not Stringer's role, in D'Angelo's role. But obviously Avon puts family above all else. Yeah. All right. So cops meet Omar at the graveyard. They tell him about the detail. And basically say, we're not getting in your way, don't get in our way. If we can work together, we can all bring them down. Yeah. Anything on that scene?
No, I liked it.
So then we've got a lot of forward momentum on McNulty's case. Things are looking up a little bit. We've got some connections made. And he finally comes back, and he's finally built the bunk bed. And a nice little sweet parallel to he's made progress in his professional life, and so it looks like he's also making progress on his personal life. Now that's something else that I wanted to bring up because of that scene was okay. So let's tie it in back with art. If you're a struggling artist, struggling performer, and you're trying to make it, typically you sacrifice a lot of your personal stuff to make that career thing work. Mm-hmm. But when things start going well in your career, in your art, at least in my personal experience, I know that it's almost like I feel that satisfaction, and it lets me kind of go back into reality with a sense of pride and relaxation, and it actually helps me be present in my day-to-day life. So I'm not thinking, but when the chips are down, I find myself constantly thinking about music or podcasting or comedy or something of like, okay, or marketing. What's the next step I can take? How can I do this better? How can I podcast better? How can I prepare for this next thing? How can we? But when like I put something up and it gets a shit ton of random plays on YouTube or downloads on iTunes, then it's almost like I have a weekend where I just go, everything's cool. And I can focus and be present in the moment. Do you find that for yourself? Do you think that that's what's happening with McNulty now that he actually has made some forward momentum on the case? He can kind of focus on his personal life?
Interesting. I never thought about that, but yeah, I guess that makes sense.
How about for you? Do you find that you start to focus more on your personal life in your successes, or are you really at this point just all comedy all the time?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. That's a really good idea to think about. I'm certainly more happy when things are going successfully, but I'm not necessarily like all that much happier. Like it's weird how I don't know. I've noticed as a human, it's like when you're successful at something.
As a human, stop trying to convince us you're not a robot. Sorry, go on.
One thing I've studied about the human mind,
in my interstellar travels.
for me, it's more about doing the thing. So if I were in McNulty's shoes, I would probably be able to get the bed together, whether my case was, reaching new heights or not, as long as I was doing it. For me, like, I've struggled with like laziness and sickliness and sloth my whole life. So I don't know. I'm usually just happy doing the thing regularly. So if I was McNulty and showing up for work and doing my best all the time, I'd probably feel okay. Of course, I'd get a high for a while when I get over a new hurdle or whatever. But I don't know. For me, I found there's always like another hurdle to get over. So it's it's kind of like. And no matter what you achieve, like, or get, like, I got like all this money from like an inheritance recently, and it's like
Jeez.
Yeah, it feels good for like a while, but then like after like a couple days, it's like, well, I guess I got to do this and that, and like I got to spend this, and that's really not that much money if you think, and I still have to do this. And that's how it is with like anything. Like like my life right now is like everything I want it to be almost. I'm just a few steps away from,
that's awesome.
And like when I started out, I was like really insecure about, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it to where I am now. Not that it's anything spectacular from the outside, but on a personal level, it's everything I want. So,
it's like the comedian Ari Shaffir. He did some math in recent years and discovered at least at this point in his life, he's like, I only need 40 grand a year to live. And he's like, so I'm going to say and do whatever I want. And as long as I still have my stand-up career where I know I'm going to make at least 40 grand a year, then I'm good. I can get banned from ever being on TV. I can get all sorts of horrible press. It's like, but as long as I have this group or whatever of people who see me, then you're good. So I definitely hear what you're saying about it's not like you're a few steps away from living like Kevin Hart. It's like you're a few steps away from being able to live like a normal person while doing the thing that you want to do for a living.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm a million steps away. So I'm going to hope that you get famous. Hope that that this podcast catches on. I'm going to put your name on everything. I'm just going to call it the Mike Moran podcast.
Well, and that's just good marketing.
Featuring The Wire. And it'll be great.
Mike Moran presents.
Yeah. We can actually
a Mike Moran joint.
Half of me really wants to just start turning this podcast into getting you to talk about your personal life via The Wire episode discussion and just turn it into like therapy sessions for you. And,
it is. I mean, honestly, progression sessions really kind of is for me. Like especially the episodes where we don't have a guest.
Yeah.
Like basically me and Josh just talk about our happiness and our
Oh, that's
suffering.
nice. You're happy. Yeah, I'm really happy, man. You know, so how was your happiness?
No, it is. I mean, I think that is like one of the things that people like about Josh and I is that even though we're like kind of depressed people, we are both really happy and excited to be doing a podcast and be doing comedy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like not cool to act that way within the world of stand up. Like you're supposed to like be real, you know, pissed off
Sulky.
about everything. Yeah, and like I hate to like stand up sucks and I hate myself and like if you're one of the smiley happy people, oh, then you're just like, you know, a hacky amateur or whatever. But for me, you know, it's like I don't know. I'm uncool enough to admit that I'm really like happy and grateful and excited to be doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that people like you want me to come on your podcast and show my greasy face and talk is like it might not seem like much to other people, but to me it's like, really? You know, like this is awesome. People want to hear me.
Well, that's what's so interesting about I talk to so many New York comics and LA comics, like obviously like smaller ones, but like then you also hear the differences between, and I can hear the differences between them, but you also hear the differences between successful New York and LA stand-ups. And it may be a coastal thing, whatever, but it's just what you described is like a combination of the two. Because like in LA, from what I understand, it's perfectly fine to be happy and excitable to be doing it. That's kind of or maybe I'm just referring to like all the people in the alt scene, but it seems very much like, hey, we're professional comedians. Let's have fun with it. We don't need to be dicks to each other. And then the New York comics would argue, well, if you laugh at everybody's jokes all the time and laugh way too hard at premises or at references for the sake of it, then your comedy's not going to be as good because you're never going to like, you know, you're just going to plateau. And I think there's merit to all that, but I like how you described it. Deep down, you have the more negative views that drive you to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Always jump over the next hurdle, find the next thing, work on the next thing. That's what gets you better and better. And you have to be so good to even be good, especially with the internet where everybody has access to all this information and everybody can get the baseline of funny because of the internet for humans. If I can borrow a phrase from my favorite robot alien, Mike Moran, human beings are just generally more funny, I think, now. And so you have to be that funny to be worth it to worthwhile for other people to pay attention to.
Yeah, and it's the fact also, I mean, humans are getting smarter too, which is like another one of those things.
It's something you're reporting back to your homeworld.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those things that most people don't believe because it's like more, for whatever reason, everybody likes to think that the younger generation is stupider and the whole world's going to hell. But as far as like IQs, people are getting more intelligent every generation. And so, you know, there's like 18 and 19 and 20-year-old geniuses coming into the comedy world. And I can either be like the old curmudgeon who just tries to convince everyone that they don't know what they're doing and they shouldn't be getting laughs, or I can try and learn from them because they're probably doing it better than me.
Yeah. Oh, say that again. I got distracted by something and I did my thing that my wife loves when I do, where I just go, I nod and say, yeah. And it sounded like what you said was a negative thing by the end. And I go, yeah, fuck you.
You're damn right. And you just like see my face like,
what? You're telling me about?
You son of a bitch.
Yeah. So,
she was 4 years old.
4 years too many, if you ask me.
She did not deserve that.
Okay. So, all right. What were we talking about again? The Wire. The Wire. So that was a good episode. I'm glad we were able to fill a little time from because we weren't talking about 2 episodes. Anyway. What are we going to call this thing? We'll wrap up in a few minutes. I don't have a thing at 12, so that's fine, but I'm going to start heading home.
Well, we could use the play on Wire and YR. Like, why are you not into this or something? Why are you listening to this or something like that?
Why aren't you glad I didn't say banana?
Yeah, that's awesome. Why aren't you glad I didn't say banana? But the name you thought up is cool too. I mean, I like
Snotboogie,
the Snotboogie thing.
Oh my god! Yeah, well, that's the problem. So a big thing is finding a stumble upon audience, and you can really do that when you make an obscure reference to something that nobody's gonna be looking for.
I like the idea of memorializing Snotboogie.
I do too.
Like the very first scene of The Wire, like you have to be really into The Wire to understand it.
Yeah. Jeez. Or even, yeah, exactly. Snotboogie.
I can't believe he never comes back.
No, like, well, I think
not back from the dead.
Yeah, that would be
like.
You didn't know? I think we talked about this. Every season they do a different genre. Like they have like a Walking Dead theme to season 2.
Sure.
They got
There's
like
the time travel one.
Yeah. We've got to get back to the pit. We should have never left, Kate.
Right. Yeah. There's the one where they cross over with Air Bud.
and they because it's like because Air Bud always played for like inner city schools and yeah, that'll be exactly. And there's
no rule in the game that says dogs can't sell drugs.
We got to consult the official rule book. And of course the East, yeah, exactly. But he plays basketball on that one.
Sure.
Yeah, because he has to play. Yeah. Or no, maybe it's golf. And they have like the inner city school that he plays for has to they have to beat the rich snobby golf school.
Right.
And this will be good. This will be good.
Yeah.
We're gonna rewrite this. This is the worst fan fiction ever that we're creating. All right, sweet. Well, maybe we'll have a title the next time. Maybe not. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for coming on and doing this.
Thank you.
I will see you soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Take
Peace.
Care. Bye.